Let's be honest. Throw out of your head everything you read in glossy magazines and heard from relationship experts. This entire advice industry, built on the idea that a man can be won over with the right dress, the perfect dinner, or a display of submissiveness, is a grand, cynical deception. It's the path to becoming convenient, pleasant, perhaps even desirable for a short while. But it will never hear me, never make you the object of his obsession. All these superficial tricks work on his logic, on his social expectations, but they are utterly powerless against that ancient, irrational force that truly governs his choice. You try, you play by the rules, you become a good girl, and in the end you watch as his mind and heart are consumed by another woman, the one who may not be as beautiful or as accommodating, but who possesses an incomprehensible, almost mystical power over him. You are here because you're tired of being just a good option. You want to become the only option. Real, all-consuming power over a man's mind does not lie on the plane of visible actions, but far beneath them, in the dark waters of his subconscious. This is a territory where the laws of logic don't work, but instincts as old as the world do. And today we are setting off on an expedition into the deepest rabbit hole of the male soul. And our guide won't be yet another coach, but the person who drew the map of this territory, Carl Gustav Jung. We are not going to teach you to flirt. We are going to understand what is really going on in his head so you can press the right buttons. I will give you not just tricks, but 7 psychological keys which, if turned in the correct sequence, launch an irreversible mechanism. A mechanism that turns fondness into interest, interest into attachment, and attachment into true mental obsession. Once you master these 7 steps, you will stop playing the make him like you game. You will become the game he wants to play forever, without even understanding why. You will become the thought he cannot shake off in meetings, the melody playing in his head when he's driving, the image that keeps him from falling asleep at night. You will learn to be not just a woman in his life, but the main theme of his reflections. We won't change your appearance. We will change how his brain processes the information about you, turning you from a temporary infatuation into a fundamental need of his soul. Ready for such a deep dive? Ready to gain the kind of power others are afraid to even dream about? Then let's make a deal. Before we begin this initiation, pay for your ticket in our local currency. Your like under this video is the energy for our journey, and your subscription is the guarantee that you won't get lost in these depths and will gain access to the next revelations. And now a quick roll call so I understand who is with us today. What is scarier for you, to be completely unnoticed by the man you're interested in, or to be forgotten after a short but bright affair? If the first, put the number 1 in the comments. If the second, the number 2. Let's see which fear dominates today. And now buckle up. We begin. Step 1, see the king in him, not the soldier. Let's start with the fundamental mistake 99 of women make when trying to win a man's favor. They hand out compliments. You're so strong, you're so smart, you have a great sense of humor. At first glance, this seems logical. We praise someone, he feels good, and he associates that pleasant feeling with us. But in reality, it's like trying to satisfy hunger by smelling food. It gives a short-term superficial effect, but it doesn't truly nourish. Why? Because all these compliments are aimed at his outer shell, at the social role he plays for the world. Jung called this role the persona, the mask we wear to be accepted by society. Successful manager, reliable friend, life of the party. When you praise his mask, you do the same thing everyone else does. His colleagues, his friends, casual acquaintances. You applaud his performance but don't see the actor. Of course it feels nice, but it leaves his soul absolutely cold. A man instinctively feels that you're praising not him, but his facade, his business card. It's cheap dopamine that quickly evaporates, leaving no trace in his deep memory. He'll say thank you, smile, but 5 minutes later he'll forget your compliment, and possibly you as well. Because you did not create a unique connection, you just became another audience member in his theater. To start the mechanism of obsession, you must strike not at the mask, but at what's hidden behind it. Behind every male mask, behind every role he plays so diligently, lies his secret, true essence. But deeper still lies not who he is now, but who he desperately dreams of becoming. Every man, even the most confident and accomplished, has an idealized version of himself. His inner hero who is still slumbering. It's his potential, his scope, his not yet realized ambitions. Jung said that a person's entire life is a path toward becoming oneself in full. And that path often runs through solitude and doubt. A man may feel this dormant power within, yet be afraid to believe in it, because the world around him judges only his current achievements. And here lies your superpower. A woman who wants to become the object of obsession must learn to see not his reality, but his potential. She must become the first person in the universe to look him in the eyes and, without a hint of flattery, say, "I see who you can become." This is not about inventing qualities that don't exist. This is about discerning the true sprouts of his future greatness and watering them with your attention. When you look through his present mistakes and failures and see the king he was born to be, you cease to be just a woman. You become the first person who truly believed in him. You gain direct access to the most sacred part of his soul, his dream of himself. How to do this in practice? Forget evaluative adjectives. Switch to the language of processes and scope. Instead of saying, "You did a great job on the presentation," say, "The way you structure your thoughts is captivating. There's something more than just good work in it. It's strategic vision." Feel the difference? The first is a statement of fact available to everyone. The second is recognition of his unique gift, which he himself may have only dimly sensed. If he shares with you a business idea that seems raw, don't say "good idea." Say, "Right, most people are afraid to think like that." The boldness of the concept itself already has enormous power. Even if it seems crazy now, it's precisely such ideas that change the world. You're not praising his idea, you're praising his courage to think differently. You become the first fan of his not yet created project. Instead of "you're so smart," try, "I'm amazed at how your mind finds connections where others see chaos." That's a rare talent. You're not slapping on a label. You're describing a unique process happening inside him. You become a witness to his genius before it becomes obvious to others. These phrases, said at the right moment with absolute sincerity, act like the strongest compliment he has ever heard. What happens in his head when he hears this? A miracle. For the first time in his life, he meets someone who sees him not as he is, but as the universe intended him to be. You become a mirror, not the one that reflects his tired face after a workday, but a magic mirror that shows his heroic, triumphant version from the future. And he gets hooked on that reflection. He begins to associate that feeling of his own significance, that anticipation of his future success, exclusively with you. You become his muse, his personal talisman, a source of faith in himself, especially in moments when his own faith runs dry. And here the first, most solid brick is laid in the foundation of his obsession. He begins to need your gaze like a plant needs the sun to grow. The thought of losing you is now not just a thought about losing a woman. It's a thought about betraying his dream. It's the fear of losing the only source that feeds his belief in his own greatness. And believe me, a man will never refuse such a source. He will return to you again and again to see in your eyes his best future one more time. Step 2. Become his only refuge. Society and mass culture have created a monstrous, toxic myth. The myth that a man must always be strong, confident, unshakable, a rock, a winner. From childhood, he is hammered with, "Boys don't cry, don't whine, be a man." As a result, growing up, he puts on heavy mental armor that he never removes for a second. He is forced to constantly play the superhero role, suppressing any display of weakness, fear, insecurity, or sadness. And most tragically, many women support this cruel game. They look for a real man, a stone wall to hide behind. They want to see an ideal glossy image next to them, not a living person. But staying in this armor 247 is unbearably exhausting. It's like sleeping in a night suit. It leads to colossal inner tension and a deep sense of loneliness. A man can be surrounded by a crowd, but inside he is alone with his demons, which he is forbidden to show to anyone. He fears that if he even briefly removes this mask of strength, he will be deemed weak, inadequate, and rejected. And he's right. Most people will do exactly that, but not the woman who wants to become his obsession. Each of us, as Carl Jung taught, has a shadow. Simply put, the shadow is all those parts of our personality that we ourselves consider bad, unacceptable, and therefore hide deep in the basement of our subconscious. In men, fear, vulnerability, doubt, the need for care, sadness, and the right to make mistakes are usually banished into this shadow. It's a vast layer of his true personality that he is forced to hide from everyone, and first of all, from himself. He spends a huge amount of psychic energy keeping these demons in a cage, and the greatest unspoken secret desire of any man is to find at least one person in the world next to whom he can open that cage and not be destroyed for it. He dreams of a safe space where his shadow will not be judged but accepted, where his weakness won't become a weapon against him. A woman who instinctively or consciously provides him such a space gains absolute, almost mystical power over him. She does what nobody else does. She gives him the right to be imperfect, to be human. She doesn't just look at his shadow, she greets it. How to create this safe space? It's the art of subtle reactions. Imagine he comes home after failed negotiations and says, "It seems I ruined everything. I screwed up." The wrong standard reaction, "Come on, don't worry. You're strong. You'll handle it. Everything will be fine." With these words, you are essentially saying, "Put your armor back on. It makes me uncomfortable to see your weakness." You slam the door to his soul, the right reaction. Look at him with warmth and calm and say, "That sounds really hard. I can see how upset you are. Tell me what you're feeling." You're not solving his problem. You're acknowledging his pain. If he says, "I'm afraid I won't make it," instead of, "Don't be afraid," say, "It's normal to be afraid when something important is at stake. That doesn't make you weak, it makes you alive." You give him the right to be afraid when in a moment of vulnerability, he confesses some old mistake or unseemly act. Don't preach and don't justify him. Simply say, "Thank you for trusting me with this. It must not have been easy." Your task is to be neither a judge nor a rescuer, but a quiet, accepting harbor. Your silent, warm presence, free of judgment, is louder than any words of support. What happens to a man when, for the first time in his life, he encounters such acceptance? His world flips. The wall he has been building around his heart for years cracks. He feels for the first time that he can exhale, can stop playing a role, can just be. In a world where everyone demands he be an invincible superhero, you become the only place where he can take off his cape, heal his wounds, and admit he's tired. This bond, built on the acceptance of his weaknesses, becomes 1,000 times deeper and stronger than any bond built on passion, common interests, or social compatibility. He becomes dependent on this feeling of safety and acceptance, like on air. It becomes his basic psychological need, and the thought of losing you turns into panic terror. To lose you means to be alone again in his cold armor, to lock his demons back in the cage, and to lose the only island of authenticity in an ocean of pretense. He will be obsessed with the idea of preserving this refuge at any cost. Because you gave him something greater than love. You gave him back himself. Step 3. The déjà vu effect. Let him decide he has known you forever. Just be yourself is perhaps the most popular and most useless piece of advice in relationships. It sounds beautiful and humane, but in practice often leads nowhere. The problem is that being yourself is too vague. Each of us has dozens of facets. We can be caring and daring, serious and frivolous, strong and vulnerable. Which version of yourself should you show? Which one will pluck the right string in him? Acting at random, we risk spending months and years demonstrating qualities he is absolutely indifferent to, while the key to his heart lies in a completely different plane. The advice to be yourself ignores a fundamental psychological law. We are attracted not to what is good in itself, but to what resonates with our internal, unconscious images. Simply being a good person is not enough. To become the object of obsession, You must become the embodiment of his dream. And to do that, you must first understand what he dreams of, even if he himself doesn't realize it. Carl Jung made a brilliant discovery. He found that in every man's subconscious lives his inner woman, or anima. More simply, it is a composite, idealized image of femininity formed from childhood under the influence of his mother's image, first crushes, heroines of books and films. This anima is his personal compass in the world of women. He can reason logically all he wants, make lists of qualities of the ideal partner, but in the end, his subconscious will look in real women for the one who most resembles his inner ideal. He himself cannot describe this image, but when he meets a woman whose features, manners, voice, or energy resonate with this image, a click occurs in his brain, a short circuit. He feels an inexplicable, magnetic pull that he cannot explain even to himself. It seems to him that it is fate, chemistry, love at first sight. In fact, it is his subconscious screaming, "I found her, the outer manifestation of my inner ideal." And a woman who can become this manifestation for him gains almost unlimited power over him. How do you figure out what his inner ideal looks like if he himself is unaware of it? You need to become a psychological detective and learn to read indirect clues. Listen carefully to what he talks about. Which women does he single out when discussing movies or books? Is he fascinated by the independent and bold warrior, or by the mysterious and wise enchantress? That's the first key. The second and most important key is his relationship with his mother. It doesn't matter whether it's good or bad. What qualities does he emphasize in her? She was always so caring, or she was too controlling and domineering. Often a man looks for either an exact copy of maternal care or its complete opposite. If he admires women who made themselves, then his inner ideal carries traits of independence and strength. If he recalls with warmth how his grandmother baked pies, perhaps his ideal is tied to coziness and home warmth. Your task is not to copy and not to mimic. That would be fake. Your task is to find this leading motif, for example, mystery, or strength of spirit, or joyfulness, and begin to express those facets of your own personality that coincide with this motif. You're not pretending. You're simply highlighting the right facet of your diamond. When you start subtly and organically transmitting the qualities that are internally close to him, something incredible happens. He looks at you and feels an irrational, deep sense of recognition. It seems to him as if he has always known you, even before you actually met. He can't understand where this feeling comes from, but it's so strong that it sweeps away all logical arguments. This is the very sensation of a kindred soul that men describe as something mystical. He begins to see in your casual gestures, in the intonations of your voice, in your gaze, the confirmation that you are the one. This connection feels to him predestined, fateful. He no longer evaluates you as one woman among many. You become a category beyond comparison. He doesn't just fall in love. He feels he has found the missing part of his own soul. And this feeling is so intoxicating and powerful that he becomes obsessed with the idea of never losing you. Because in his subconscious, losing you means losing his ideal again, being left again with a blurred, unembodied image inside. You become for him living proof that his dream exists. Step 3. Be for him sometimes paradise, sometimes storm, sometimes mystery. Well then, my dear depth seekers, are you still here? If so, you've already made it halfway. We have laid the most powerful foundation. You learn to reflect his future greatness, to accept his hidden fears, and to resonate with his inner ideal. He already feels you are not like the others. But that was deep work. Now we move into the big leagues. We begin to actively manage his emotions in real time. If the first 3 steps were about creating a unique musical instrument, now we will learn to play a mesmerizing melody on it. And before we move on to the most powerful techniques that turn a deep connection into true obsession, let's exchange energy again. Your like is the applause that gives me strength to continue. Your subscription is your ticket to the next, even more exclusive circle of knowledge. Ready? Then let's go further. Here's the harsh truth about relationships that isn't customary to speak about. Absolute comfort and complete predictability are a slow poison that kills passion. At the very beginning, we are drawn to novelty, uncertainty, the game. But as soon as the game ends, the man relaxes, gets used to it, and starts to get bored. Relationships built solely on comfort and acceptance turn over time into a warm, cozy, but absolutely lifeless swamp. There's no air in them, no dynamics, no life. The male psyche, by nature geared toward overcoming and achieving, begins to wither in such an atmosphere. He may value you as a friend, as a partner, but the fire in his eyes goes out. You become for him a book he has read, which he puts on the shelf. He knows how it ends. He knows all the characters, and he's no longer interested in rereading it. A woman who offers a man only one emotion, even the most pleasant one, total comfort, risks very quickly becoming background to him, a familiar detail of the interior. Our goal is not to be the background, but the main event of his life. To keep a man constantly toned and not let him get bored, you must become for him a source of not one, but three key energies that will constantly replace one another. Imagine three roles. The first, paradise. This is that very safe harbor we spoke of. It is acceptance, warmth, understanding, a place where he can remove his armor. The second role, storm. This is play, light provocation, irony. It is a challenge that makes him become better, prove himself, achieve. It's the energy that says, yes, I like you, but you'll have to make an effort to be with me. And the third role, mystery. This is your self-sufficiency, your unpredictability, your own life separate from him. It's the energy that creates slight scarcity and makes him wonder, what is she doing now? What is she thinking about? Most women get stuck in one role, usually paradise. But a woman capable of evoking obsession masterfully changes these masks, never lingering long in one. It is this dynamic, this constant switching of states that creates those very emotional roller coasters that don't let a man relax and make him think about you constantly. What does this look like in life? Tonight you are the embodiment of paradise. He shares problems. You listen carefully, not giving advice, just being present. You create an oasis of calm for him. He falls asleep thinking, it's so good and peaceful with her. She is my home. But the next day he shares his grand plans to conquer the world. And instead of bowing and nodding, you look at him with a sly smile and step into the role of storm. Sounds very ambitious. We'll see if you've got the boldness to make it happen. You don't devalue him, you raise the bar. You turn his monologue into a game. His excitement awakens. And a day later, when he texts you, you don't answer instantly. You switch to mystery mode. You disappear for a few hours, then reply, sorry, I was absorbed in one of my ideas and completely lost track of time. You don't justify yourself. You demonstrate that you have your own world, no less interesting than he is. At once, a question arises in his head. What idea? What is she living with without me? You constantly change the rules, switch registers. From warm and accepting, you turn into ironic and provoking, and then into enigmatic and self-sufficient. This behavior completely hacks his brain. He can never fully relax and take you for granted. His emotional state around you is never flat and predictable. He is constantly in a slight, pleasant tension. He never knows which facet of you he'll see today. Will you be his quiet harbor, his worthy opponent in an intellectual duel, or an elusive enigma? This unpredictability creates a powerful psychological dependence, similar to a gambler's excitement. He gets hooked on these emotional swings, where relaxation is followed by tension, and tension by intrigue. The grand prize in this game is you, your attention, your approval. And he becomes obsessed with the desire to figure you out completely, to assemble this complex puzzle. But the trick is that this puzzle cannot be assembled because you're constantly changing. You're not a book that has been read. You're an entire library in which he finds a new captivating volume every day. And this process of discovery becomes for him an endless and most fascinating adventure of his life. Step 5, settle in his thoughts. We live in a world that values clarity, precision, and straightforwardness. Say what you think, be an open book. In business, this may work, But in the art of seduction, straightforwardness is a mortal sin. When a woman lays all her cards on the table, speaks about everything directly, answers all questions, and shares every thought, she makes a fatal mistake. She leaves no work for his mind. And the human psyche is such that we value only what we've invested our own resources in: time, effort, emotions, and most importantly, thoughts. If you serve yourself to him on a silver platter, ready and fully understandable, he will consume it and move on. He won't think about you. And what we don't think about has no value for us. Straightforwardness and total openness kill the main ingredient of obsession imagination. A woman who wants to live in a man's head must understand. Her task is not to give him all the information about herself, but to give him only a few vivid details from which his mind will build an entire world. In the early 20th century, psychologist Bluma Zygarnik noticed a striking effect. Waiters in cafes remembered all the details of unfinished orders, but instantly forgot those that had been paid and completed. The conclusion was simple. Our brain remembers and constantly replays in our head incomplete actions, unresolved tasks, and unfinished stories much better. This mechanism can and should be used to create obsession. Your main task is to become for him the most exciting, most intriguing, most important unfinished story in his life. You must constantly create open loops in his mind's small mysteries, hints, conversations cut off at the most interesting place that his brain will desperately try to complete when you're not around. He will think not about how good or beautiful you are. He will think about what you left unsaid, what you meant, what hides behind your smile. You give him not a ready answer, but food for thought. And the more he feeds on this food, the more space you occupy in his mental landscape. How to create these open loops? It's an entire art. First, learn to leave at the peak. Don't wait until the conversation fizzles out or the date gets boring. End the meeting at the moment when emotions are at their highest note. Look at your watch with genuine regret and say, "Time flies with you in a way that should be illegal. I really do have to run, even though I hate to." And leave him with that peak feeling and a desire for more. Second, use hint phrases that open a story but don't finish it. For example, in the middle of a conversation, you might drop, "Oh, that reminds me of a crazy story that happened to me in Prague." On second thought, "No, it's too personal. I'll tell you some other time." That's it. The loop is created. His brain will be obsessed with, "What story? Why is it personal?" Third, leave slight ellipses in messages. Instead of describing your day in detail, write, "Today was incredibly strange but interesting. Made me think about a lot." Don't explain what exactly. Let his imagination fill in the rest. You're not playing the silent game. You're conducting his thoughts. When you skillfully use these techniques, real magic happens. You can be physically absent in his life at work, with girlfriends, doing your own thing. But mentally you are present in it constantly, 247. His brain, hooked on the open loops you created, works nonstop. He replays your last conversation, trying to grasp the hidden meaning of your phrase. He imagines what crazy story happened to you. He speculates about what you were thinking about after your strange day. You become the director and the lead character in his inner movie theater. And this film he shows himself is much brighter and more captivating than gray reality. He starts spending more time with your image in his head than with real people. He talks to you, argues, tries to figure you out. You cease to be just a person. You become a haunting, a fixed idea. This is obsession in its purest form. He is obsessed not with you, but with the world you made his imagination build around you. Step 6. Teach him to miss you. Modern technologies have created a dangerous illusion, the illusion that we must be connected 24/7. We answer messages within a minute, always pick up the phone, ready to rush to a meeting at the first call. Women entering relationships often consider this a display of care and involvement. They want to show a man that he is their top priority, but the psychological reality is that this is a strategy of total defeat. Everything that is in constant, unlimited access is automatically devalued. We don't value the air we breathe until it's cut off. We don't value the water that flows from the tap until it's turned off. In the same way, a man stops valuing a woman who is always there, always available, always ready. Her presence becomes the background, a habit, something taken for granted. There is no value in her availability because there is no risk of losing it. She may be the most wonderful, smart, and caring, but if she turns herself into a free, round-the-clock add-on to his life, her value in his eyes will tend towards zero. At the core of human psychology lies a simple and merciless principle. We truly realize the value of something or someone only when we face the risk of losing it. Not the loss itself, but the risk, the possibility. The most expensive works of art are those that exist in a single copy. The most desirable things are those released in limited editions. This is the principle of scarcity. For your value in a man's eyes to soar to the heavens, you must become for him such a limited edition. Your task is not to threaten to leave or stage cheap manipulations. Your task is to elegantly and consistently demonstrate that your time, your attention, and your energy are a limited and very valuable resource, and you are not willing to give it away for free. You must create, at a subconscious level in him, a light background anxiety that if he doesn't invest, doesn't value you, he may lose you. Not because you will go to another man, but because you will go into your own interesting, full life where there might simply be no place for him. How to create this scarcity without turning into the Snow Queen? The key is having a real, not invented, life of your own. First, stop replying to messages instantly. This is not a game. You truly can be busy reading a book, working on a project, talking to a friend. A pause of half an hour or an hour before answering doesn't say that you're ignoring him. It says that your world doesn't revolve around waiting for his message. Second, don't always agree to meet on the day and hour convenient to him. Have your own plans. Oh, Thursday evening doesn't work for me. I have Argentine tango class. But I'm free on Friday. You're not refusing him. You're showing that your life is full of events that matter to you. Third, allow yourself to disappear. Not to make him jealous, but to dive headfirst into something of your own. Go away for the weekend with girlfriends. Turn off your phone for a few hours to go to an exhibition alone. Your task is to create periods of your complete and sincere absence when you are happy and engrossed without him. What happens in his psyche during your disappearances? First slight bewilderment, then anxiety. His brain, accustomed to the constant flow of your energy and attention, faces emptiness, a vacuum, and he begins feverishly to fill this vacuum with thoughts of you. It is precisely in your absence that he truly begins to miss you. He remembers your laugh, your words, how he felt next to you. Lack of contrast makes presence invisible. Only by creating this contrast do you make him realize how important a part of his life you have become. This triggers a light panic and forces him to urgently reevaluate your significance. He begins to understand, in a panic, how much you mean to him. He starts to fear losing you. He realizes that you are not his property, but a separate, self-sufficient universe that can perfectly well exist without him. And this fear is the most powerful motivator. It makes him shift from passive consumption of your company to active action. He starts investing more, valuing more, trying harder to keep you in his orbit. His obsession moves from thoughts to deeds. He begins to chase your attention because now he knows it is a precious and scarce resource. Step 7. Become his best habit. We have gone through 6 of the most powerful steps. You have learned to be the mirror of his soul, the mistress of his thoughts, and the creator of scarcity. He already thinks about you. He already fears losing you. It would seem the goal has been achieved, but everything we did before was tools of influence, albeit very subtle ones. The last 7th step is something entirely different. It is what moves obsession from the level of psychology to the almost spiritual. It is what turns you from an object of desire into an inseparable part of himself. It is what makes your bond not just strong, but irreplaceable. If the previous steps were about how to make him think of you, this step is about how to become that without which he can no longer conceive of himself. The modern world offers us an endless kaleidoscope of quick and cheap pleasures, new acquaintances, bright impressions, superficial connections. Relationships often turn into a chaotic chase for new emotions. Today, passion, tomorrow, boredom, the day after search for a new stimulus. In this endless race, there is nothing stable, nothing fundamental. People come together and part like ships in the night, leaving only a short wake in memory. A man, even the most sophisticated, deep down gets tired of this carousel. He becomes sated with quick emotions that come and go, leaving nothing but emptiness. This superficiality of modern life creates a vacuum in his soul, a thirst for something real, constant, meaningful. He may not realize it himself, chasing yet another adventure, but his soul seeks something more than mere entertainment. It seeks an anchor. Carl Jung said that the ultimate goal of human life is the attainment of wholeness. In the depths of his soul, every person, and a man especially, strives not just for happiness or pleasure, but for meaning. He seeks order in chaos, seeks something stable and unshakable to lean on in this changeable world. He seeks traditions, rituals that give his life structure and significance. A ritual is not just a repeating action. It is an action endowed with a special, your personal meaning. And a woman who can weave herself into the fabric of his life, not as a random emotion, but as a constant, meaningful ritual, becomes for him not just beloved. She becomes part of his personal history, part of his path. She becomes the anchor his soul so desperately seeks. She brings into his chaotic world not just another experience, but meaning. How to become such a ritual? Start creating small but absolutely exclusive traditions that are only yours. It doesn't have to be anything grand. The power is in consistency and uniqueness. For example, our special kind of coffee that we drink only together on Saturday mornings. Or our mandatory walk in that very park before making any important decision. It can be a special word you use to denote something understood only by the two of you, or a tradition of always having dinner at a small Italian restaurant after every quarrel as a sign of reconciliation. These small, repeated actions over time acquire enormous psychological power. They become anchors that tie certain states, calm, decision-making, reconciliation, specifically to you. It's no longer just having coffee, it's our ritual. It stops being just an action and becomes a symbol of your bond, your stability, your shared history. You create your own secret language, your microcosm with its own laws and traditions. At first, these rituals seem like simply cute habits, but over time they grow into the very structure of his life, into his neural networks. He can no longer imagine Saturday morning without that very coffee with you. He cannot make an important decision without taking that very walk with you. These rituals become part of his personality, part of his way of interacting with the world. And here the final transformation occurs. You cease to be an external object, even the most desirable one. You become an internal necessity. You become part of himself. The thought of life without you now evokes not just the fear of loneliness or sadness. It evokes in him a panicky feeling as if a part of himself is being taken away, a piece of his life torn out, his world destroyed. This is the highest, deepest form of obsession. Obsession not with the woman, but with the way of life, the meaning that she brought into his existence. At this level, he no longer fears losing you. He understands that it's impossible, because you are already him. Conclusion: power and responsibility. And so we have traveled this path. 7 steps, 7 keys to the most hidden rooms of the male soul. We started by seeing the king in him, then learned to be his refuge, to evoke the déjà vu effect, to be for him paradise, storm, and mystery, to settle in his thoughts, to teach him to miss you, and finally to become his best habit. And I want you to understand the main thing. This is not a set of cunning manipulations. This is a path to revealing your own incredible depth and multifaceted nature. This is an instruction not about how to pretend to be someone else, but about how to show your true value in a language his subconscious can hear. And here is the main takeaway for which we are all gathered here. A man's true, all-consuming obsession arises not with the woman who tries her hardest to please him and adapt to his world. It arises with the woman who is, in and of herself, a whole, self-sufficient, endlessly interesting universe. All these 7 steps are not ways to wedge yourself into his life. They are 7 ways to elegantly and irresistibly invite him into yours. You do not become his shadow. You become the sun around which he himself will want to build his orbit. The power these insights give is enormous, but it also imposes enormous responsibility. Use it wisely. And in closing, I want to ask you the last most important question. Now that you know this theory, look back at your experience. Which of the 7 steps have you perhaps intuitively already used in your life without realizing it? Which one feels the most natural and which one the hardest? Please don't hesitate to share your thoughts and stories in the comments. Your experience is priceless and it will help other women on this path. Thank you for trusting me with the most important things, your attention and your time. And of course, if this journey was valuable to you, your subscription and like will be the best sign that we should continue to open the secrets of the human soul together. Until next time.